Hello, welcome back to Coach's Corner. So today we're going to talk about crickets, blank stares. So you ask a question and there's crickets.
Nothing.
Blank stares. Nothing. So we're going to dig into that a little bit.
All right. So one thing we know about 5th and 6th grade students is there's a lot of peer pressure that happens at this age. And they're trying to figure out who they are. They want a safe face in front of their peers. And we often think of peer pressure as students taking risks that are like, ooh, not good ideas. But in the case of school, a lot of times peer pressure comes in the form of not feeling like they can take risks.
Right.
They're afraid of looking stupid in front of the class. They're afraid of being made fun of. They're just generally afraid of having the wrong answer. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind with this age group.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about the questions you ask that oftentimes elicit the crickets and the blank stares because no one's really wanting to jump in and answer, we really need to think about being clear about what we're asking. So it's back to those questions like when you're asking who can or what is, those kind of those questions that you just ask and you just expect people to start bubbling out with answers. Instead of saying that, like, who can tell me the definition of the word flounder? And then we're just instantly expecting everyone's hand to go in the air because they can all tell you the answer.
But we don't. We get like the same
Yeah.
couple kids. Or everyone's
Right.
else like, I don't know.
Yeah. So instead of asking that, we could say something like, in a few minutes, I am going to ask you to show me a picture that represents the meaning of the word flounder. So now we've added in time for them to think. We're specifically telling them we're going to ask them to draw a picture, okay? And they have the time to do it. So that can be a lot more effective so that we're not getting those crickets.
So along with that, we want to make sure that they know who's going to be expected to answer this question. Like, yes, we're all expected to draw what the
to
word
think,
flounder
yeah.
means and to be thinking, but who's actually going to be the one that has to answer in front of the class? Because a lot of kids, especially if they're a little anxious, they're wondering, am I going to get called on? Right. So being sure as the teacher to be clear, are you going to call on a volunteer after the few minutes that they have to think, or are you going to call on non-volunteers? Because that
Popsicle stick.
Yeah, like a popsicle stick. Also being clear, can they talk to a peer, or do they have to do this alone? Can they look at their notes or the text that they're reading, or do they need to recall from memory? And then how long do they have to think? So just setting some of those clear expectations will lessen the anxiety for students as they're thinking. Working memory doesn't really work at all when you're stressed. So students need to feel calm and confident that they know what's going on and what to expect.
And that wait time is so important. So we're going to wait till we get responses. You might even say things like, okay, nope, hands down, I want everyone thinking. And you're just encouraging the idea that when a question is asked, everyone's thinking, not just 4 or 5 kids, but everyone. And that wait time is so important. You're letting kids organize their thoughts. So giving them time and space to be able to think, if I were called on, what would I say? And then also giving kids the language to where if they do get called on and they don't know, rather than just needing to all of a sudden get silly because I got to deflect the idea that I don't know this answer to the question, giving them the language like, I need more time. Or I'm just not really sure, or giving them that language. Maybe they're asking a question, or they're really just asking, I'd need a little more time. But giving them that language so that they can kind of save face in front of their peers, and so they can express that they just don't know right now.
Yep. Another question that I think we ask a lot that gets tons of blank stares is, does that make sense?
Oh, I do that all the
So
time.
I'm like teaching about multiplication, I'm showing them the steps on the board, and I look at them and I'm like, does that make sense? And then nobody says anything.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep on going.
And we don't really give them time to say anything. Do we really want them to say
I
anything?
don't know if we really want them to answer
We
that
do.
question, but a lot
we ask it.
We do ask it a lot. And I think they're not going to answer it truthfully anyway. I mean, if they don't know it, do they really want to raise their hand and be like, nope, it doesn't make sense? No, like no one wants to do that. So making sure we have given our students tools to really give us feedback throughout a lesson of whether or not something makes sense. So the classic thumbs up, thumbs down, right in front of their chest, not up here, just right here, so it's private, so just you and the student can gauge where they're at. Also, I've seen people use like colored response cards that can be effective, where they can just flip over a card one way or the other. Another great tool is an actual like online tool called Plickers, and each student would get a Plicker card, and it's really, really, really neat, especially if you're doing like a multiple choice kind of response that you want from kids, because you use your cell phone and it scans the answers in the room, and you can show immediate results even if you want to. You don't have to, but you could show immediate results to the class on like where the answers are coming from, but it's anonymous. And so the kids aren't getting called out individually if they get a wrong answer. Now you as a teacher from another view can see who answered what, but the one you would show your class is actually anonymous. And then you could even have conversations. Maybe B was the wrong answer, and you could have a conversation. Why do we think we had like 5 kids answer B? Like, what do you think they were thinking? And have some conversations around it. So Plickers is a great free tool that Tiffany and I would be glad to work with anybody if you're interested in using that in your classroom, to elicit some responses without all the high pressure of whether or not I know it or not.
We really want to eliminate that high pressure by being clear, setting clear expectations, giving that wait time, really just being predictable with what kids can expect for when they do respond.
Yeah.
So this really leads well into our next episode, which you'll have to tune in for. We're going to talk a lot about turn-in talks, and we're going to really think through turn-in talks. So if you haven't subscribed to Coach's Corner, this YouTube channel, please do. Continue to check out our Facebook page, Growing Our Practice, and we will see you in that next episode.